In hurricane-ravaged Homestead, many people are angry over the wrangling.
Everything's been politically based. You had all the candidates down here. They want to stand around and shake hands. Why don't they stand around and pick up garbage?
The people who want to close the base down are thinking about dollars for their area because this is one more base they close down that might save their base in their area.
Politics aside, residents here say they need Homestead now more than ever.
The Air Force Base was the economic anchor for this area. Many of the people who live and work here say if it does not reopen, their recovery period will be long and painful.
We've always depended on the air base. The tourist and air base is what we need. Without them, we can hang it up.
Supporters of the base are expected to put pressure on Congress to keep the local economy from being hit by a second disaster. Noah Nelson, NBC News, Homestead, Florida.
If hurricanes are acts of God, it's no wonder that Andrew has become a campaign issue in this presidential campaign. God now is being claimed by all parties. NBC's Andrea Mitchell tonight on the religious revival in presidential politics. Andrea?
Tom, this year you'd almost think God was on the ticket. Today, Bill Clinton challenged George Bush's recent suggestion that Republicans are holier than Democrats. Clinton chose a Catholic school, Notre Dame, to respond to the Republicans' declaration of religious war at their convention in Houston.
Like so many Americans, I have been appalled to hear the voices of intolerance raised in recent weeks. America does not need a religious war. It needs a reaffirmation of the values that for most of us are rooted in our religious faith.
In Houston, the religious right and other conservatives painted Clinton as godless.
There is a religious war going on in this country. And in that struggle for the soul of America, Clinton and Clinton are on the other side, and George Bush is on our side.
The president also joined the crusade.
I was struck by the fact that the other party took words to put together their platform, but left out three simple letters, G-O-D.
In fact, Clinton, like Bush, attends church regularly, and his party's platform does mention the importance of faith and religious institutions. Dozens of church leaders, including the head of the president's own denomination, wrote to Bush, calling his partisan use of religion blasphemy.
We dare not ever use God to favor one group over another. Down that road is the road of intolerance and injustice.
Church leaders are especially concerned about Pat Robertson's political rhetoric.
To me and to most Republicans, traditional values start with faith in Almighty God.
Robertson's Christian coalition has been raising so much money for Republican causes that the IRS is auditing possible violations of rules for tax-exempt organizations. Republican strategists worry that there will be a backlash against Bush because of the religious right. But Robertson has created a powerful political machine, which is why the president is addressing the Christian coalition tonight. Tom?
Thank you, Andrea. And when Nightly News continues in a moment, tens of thousands of people in Hawaii are ordered to flee as a powerful hurricane heads there. George Lewis will have a live report.
This just isn't me. This just isn't my kind of love.
From Maine to California.
You're kidding me.
People just like you win thousands, win millions out of the blue.
Yes.
Miracles can happen for you.
Holy cow.
Publishers Clearinghouse, the house where dreams come true.
Hi. These days you can have a pizza delivered in 30 minutes.
If the driver doesn't get lost.
Right, Mama. But in just 8 minutes, you can take Popoli, Italian bread shell, made with fresh mozzarella and Parmesan cheeses, garlic, and imported olive oil. Then add your favorite toppings and create your magnificent pizza. Crispy outside, soft inside, for less than any pizzeria.
And you don't have to tip a delivery boy.
Good point, Mama. Remember, only you can top Popoli.
Hello? Sorry, we don't deliver.
Another violent hurricane tonight headed for populated areas. This time the state is Hawaii, and this hurricane is called Iniki. Described by forecasters in Hawaii as a very dangerous hurricane, Iniki is churning toward the northern islands with sustained winds of 145 miles an hour. And NBC's George Lewis is in Hawaii tonight. George, what's the latest?
Well, Tom, the streets of Honolulu are pretty deserted this evening. Residents of low-lying areas have been told to evacuate, and people are battening down the hatches here. The evacuation has been going on all day. 3 of the Hawaiian islands are under a hurricane warning at this moment, with Iniki bearing down on Hawaii at 17 miles per hour. They're saying that wind gusts could go to 100 miles an hour and above in some beach areas. So the people of Hawaii are taking this extremely seriously. They've seen the pictures of all the damage from Florida. They know the destructive power that a hurricane can bring, and they are prepared tonight. At least they hope they're prepared. Everybody's getting away from the beach areas, and the flights from Hawaii to the mainland are being shut down now. So a lot of stranded tourists on the beaches of Waikiki have been moved inland, and it's a pretty wild scene here. As you can see, we're kind of lashed up temporarily. Tom?
Thank you very much. George Lewis in Hawaii tonight. Back on the mainland, the California legislature today was called back into special session to deal with that state's costly workers' compensation system. It actually is causing the loss of jobs in that state. NBC's John Gibson.
The LA riots burned out 2 of Michael Stennis's fast food restaurants.
I can survive riots, I can survive crime, I can survive a lot of things, but I cannot survive workers' compensation insurance.
He's rebuilt and put the riot behind him, but now this.
We just got a bill in.
Stennis's bill for workers' compensation insurance just jumped from $6,000 a month to $13,000 a month.
I can't pay that bill. I literally don't have the money to pay that bill.
Stennis is not alone. Across town in southeast Los Angeles, a shirt factory employs 100 people. But the owner just got his workers' compensation insurance bill.
$4,000 per employee.
Up 100%.
Impossible number to work with.
To reduce costs, he will soon lay off 60 workers and may move out of the state.
I can't do business in California if each employee is turning into a $30,000 liability.
In California, many otherwise flourishing businesses are either leaving the state or shutting down or eliminating workers or not giving raises simply because of the cost of workers' compensation insurance. It is the worst in Southern California, where everyone from the governor on down agrees a massive system of fraud is driving the costs ever higher.
This system that exports jobs from California to our competitors.
Governor Pete Wilson is calling the legislature back into session to reform workers' compensation laws. California is one of only 6 states that pay stress claims, and in 10 years, those claims, many fraudulent, have risen 700%.
Suffering from stress on the job?
Fraud is fueled by constant advertising on television and radio by lawyers and doctors.
Sign with me, no charge until...
Under the California system, doctors and lawyers are paid automatically, even if a worker's claim is ultimately denied.
The only ones that are benefiting are the doctors and lawyers.
These 2 restaurant owners are considering closing their operation, despite the fact business is fine.
We're very creative business people. We're doing the best we can, but the burden is enormous.
Businesses big and small do have options. They can go to Arizona, Nevada, or Mexico. Until workers' compensation is fixed, every day somebody's employer is giving up and leaving California. John Gibson, NBC News, Los Angeles.
On Wall Street today, stocks closed up just slightly in moderate trading.
You probably think the best American car value is some little econo box you have to settle for, right? Nope. It's a Buick. The luxurious Buick Park Avenue. That's according to the Complete Car Cost Guide. They calculated the 5-year cost of depreciation, financing, insurance, fuel, maintenance, and repairs, and found that Park Avenue is the best American car value. For a free reprint from the Complete Car Cost Guide, call 1-800-4-BUICK.
Nabisco shredded wheat. It's just good stuff.
If your business gives up the quality of AT&T International Long Distance and calls Italy with someone else, here's your big savings.
3 coins in the fountain.
Leaving AT&T doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's never too late for the good taste of Smuckers. Surprisingly, under 20 calories, and jams are naturally fat-free. A good way to end your day. With a name like Smuckers, it has to be good.
On America Close Up tonight, the unending savings and loan scandal, it just won't go away. And it's not getting much attention in this presidential campaign, even though the bailout now is costing taxpayers millions of dollars a day. It may be decades before the dust settles. NBC's Garrick Utley has been looking into what some describe as the biggest bank robbery ever. Garrick?
Tom, so far, almost 2,000 S&Ls have failed since the government deregulated them back in 1982. That's about half the savings and loans in the entire nation. We have tonight the story of one case where 2 S&Ls, one in Pennsylvania, the other in Texas, moved into a business they knew nothing about, far from home.
I hope we don't get stuck down here.
The men in this Jeep work for the federal government, but they're not forest rangers, and they're not doing a geological survey. They're investigating savings and loan fraud. Ben Beard is a federal prosecutor, and Roy Stewart is an investigator in the criminal division of the Internal Revenue Service. They've been checking out land, the movement of funds from one sham account to another in the mid-1980s, trying to find the money S&Ls invested and lost in what turned out to be a huge fraud in Florida, the Emerald Coast case. William Michael Atkinson, now in prison, got more than $100 million from S&Ls to build this, a huge resort community with its own international airport, he said, and a theme park that would be bigger than Disney World. But the project never got off the drawing board, and all of the S&L money was lost. Michael Cannon is a Florida real estate appraiser.
What can one say? Stupid. For the savings loans to have backed this deal. Oh, there's no logic.
How much of a sham operation was it? Well, the president of one of Atkinson's development companies worked here, dancing in a topless bar where she met Atkinson. She's the young lady sunning herself in the hood of this automobile. Her name, Cindy Wood. Government records show that her company handled more than $60 million from S&Ls in what turned out to be a series of phony land deals to make it appear to the S&L loan officers that the Emerald Coast project was going to be a success. Producer Ira Silverman found Cindy Wood in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, where she's now working as a waitress.
I didn't even know it was a real estate company.
But you were the president.
Right.
And you were the vice president.
Mm-hmm.
And you were the secretary.
Correct.
Did you have an office?
No.
Was there really a company?
No.
It was a sham.
Right. Scandal.
And you got caught up in it?
In the middle.
Because you met a charming man.
Right.
When you were dancing in a nightclub.
When I was very young.
And by the way, that charming man, William Michael Atkinson, was sentenced to 11 years in prison last month for fraud. And Sunday morning on Today, we'll have a special 90-minute report on the S&L scandal and the health of our banking industry. Tom?
Thank you, Garrick. More news, and we'll take a look at New York's street fight for the Democratic Senate nomination when Nightly News continues in a moment.
V8 has vegetables in it.
Really? I didn't know that. Vegetables in it. I heard that. Here's why I drink it.
Because it's tasty.
I love vegetables.
You hate vegetables.
I like these. They kind of crush it all up, squish together, and you can actually taste the vegetables. You know, your tomatoes, spinach, celery, carrots. It's got vegetables in it? Yes. V8? V8. You know, when I feel like a vegetable, I drink it.
It's zippy kind of thing, a zippy thing.
More tea, Daddy?
Sure, honey. Fill her up. A short while ago, Mike Ward had a headache. But he couldn't postpone his tea party with one of the town's best hostesses. So he took a Motrin IB. The same medicine as in the Motrin doctors have prescribed for years, but in non-prescription strength. And now that his headache's gone, he can concentrate on the things that really matter.
Good tea, huh, Daddy?
It's excellent tea, Becky. Excellent. Motrin IB. The relief of Motrin in non-prescription strength.
Grandma's got a date. What's a date?
Closeness. You might hesitate if you wore a diaper. So Johnson & Johnson created Serenity Guards. Bladder control protection so advanced, it holds as much as something 5 times its size and stays dry, locking liquid in. And now there's Serenity Super Plus with even more super absorbance. So if you've been looking for extra protection, give yourself hugs for discovering Serenity Super Plus.
Something about these two bolognas is the same, and something is very different. Both have the word healthy in the brand names. Both are 97% fat-free, with only 1 gram of fat per slice, but one. Healthy Favorites bologna from Oscar Mayer was the clear winner in a national taste test. Sure, both bolognas say healthy, but when it comes to great taste, we're sure Healthy Favorites will be your favorite.
Healthy Favorites from Oscar Mayer, the taste test winner.
Nice going, Dad.
The death toll from Bosnia's civil war hit a frightening mark today. More than 10,000 killed since the fighting there began 5 months ago. In other news tonight, a small town in eastern Germany, the latest hit by racial violence. Right and left-wing extremists overnight squared off outside a hotel for refugees seeking asylum. Back here at home, 2 small planes collided over a residential area of Indianapolis. Authorities say that at least 5 people, pilots and passengers, were killed. And in Texas, violence at a high school. A 17-year-old student opened fire with a handgun during an argument after a pep rally. 6 classmates were wounded, 2 of them seriously. Back to politics and a classic New York showdown for the Democratic Senate nomination. 2 women, a former vice presidential nominee and a former House member of the Nixon Impeachment Committee, and 2 men, an establishment liberal and a black activist. The winner of Tuesday's primary will take on a vulnerable Republican, incumbent Alphonse D'Amato. NBC's Lisa Myers tonight.
For Geraldine Ferraro, the last 3 weeks have been, in the immortal words of Yogi Berra, like deja vu all over again.
Using innuendos, smears, and lies, they have attempted to destroy my candidacy.
As in 1984, the issue is ethics. Last month, a newspaper detailed Ferraro's alleged ties to the mob, including to a pornographer who leased a warehouse from her husband. When the lease first became public during the '84 race, Ferraro promised to evict the tenant. She did, but not until 3 years later. Since the story, candidate Elizabeth Holtzman, the New York City comptroller, has hammered Ferraro almost daily.
Ethics and integrity will be key issues against Al D'Amato this fall. Come on, Jerry, come clean now.
There is very little difference among the candidates on key issues. All are basically liberal and favor abortion rights. Yet it has gotten so vicious that one candidate, Reverend Al Sharpton, brought a bucket of mud to a debate last night.
You could see from the title of the publication seized that it was child pornography.
Was anybody arrested?
I don't know whether anybody was arrested.
They were not.
Jerry,
the other candidate, Attorney General Robert Abrams, at times has joined the fray.
In 1984, you were found guilty of 10 ethics violations.
Still, Ferraro maintains that she's the strongest candidate against Republican D'Amato.
Al D'Amato's problems are that he has taken contributions from people with whom he has done business as a senator. Both Bob Abrams and Liz Holtzman have been criticized for doing the same thing.
But the attacks have taken a toll.
I guess Ferraro likes the dollar more than she likes ethics.
So far, the big beneficiary seems to be Abrams, who has narrowed Ferraro's lead. But Ferraro is laying a heavy appeal on her core supporters, Italians, and above all, women.
Every leader pays a price. She stood for the dreams of millions. Now it's time for us to stand with her.
Ferraro remains the favorite. Holtzman's a distant third. So Ferraro argues that a vote for anyone but her in this, the year of the woman, is a vote for a man. Lisa Myers, NBC News, New York.
Well, Nightly News continues in a moment. An American widow on a poignant pilgrimage to Russia.
It was unreal. You woke up with morning breath. You were meeting Miss Wonderful for breakfast, and instead of minty fresh scope... Where's my scope? There was something from the medicine-y mouthwash. It looked blue, but it still smelled somewhat medicine-y. I need my scope! It's okay. Relax. It was all a dream. You do have scope. It's minty through and through and kills 90% of morning breath bacteria. So you use minty fresh scope, and you kiss morning breath goodbye.
Over the past 30 years, more people have taken one brand of sleep aid more than any other for a good night's sleep. Sominex. Sominex has the one ingredient doctors recommend most,
to help you fall asleep safely without worry. Safe, simple, Sominex.
2 days only. Sears Inventory Reduction Sale. Thousands of items are marked to move. Save 10 to 50% throughout Sears. Washers, dryers, refrigerators, all marked to move. All furniture, sofas, dinettes, and more. Hey, it's gotta go. Missy tops, pants, and Lee jeans, they're out of here at 25 to 40% savings. This sale absolutely ends Saturday. So, if you want to save money, get to Sears today.
You can count on me. Sears Robot and Company.
Exercise? This is the only gym I've got time for. My lunch hour's 4 minutes. Sometimes I get constipation. When it happens, I just take this little pill. It's X-Lax.
Only X-Lax pills give you 3 choices: regular or extra gentle when you need a little help, maximum relief when you need a little more. Today's X-Lax, for regular people who sometimes aren't.
The possibility that American prisoners may be alive somewhere in what used to be the Soviet Union. But so far, no one has turned up. However, as NBC's Jim Maceda tells us tonight, at least one family won't give up.
Officially, Jane Reynolds' husband, Navy Lieutenant Robert Reynolds, was shot down over the Baltic Sea on a routine flight. That was April 8, 1950. Jane, pregnant, was told to carry on with living. But a year ago, her life came unhinged. Declassified documents revealed her husband flew top-secret missions to spot Soviet radar installations. Reynolds and his plane may have been captured by the Soviets. So with only a handful of leads, she met her daughter, Carolyn, now 42, in New York for a connecting flight to Moscow to find her first love.
And he was 6'3" and beautiful blue eyes, and it would be hard for him to be obscure.
Carolyn never saw her real father.
I have no idea if we'll find out anything, if we'll find out whether my father's dead, whether he's alive, whether I have more brothers and sisters, whether he's in good health.
In Moscow, the search began. If Bob were ever in the Gulag, the KGB would know it.
We don't have anything, on this particular problem.
Spokesman Yuri Kabaladze promised to cooperate, but if Reynolds had survived...
No record of the, interrogation, no record of the imprisonment, nothing. It's impossible.
But the Reynolds family had a lead. Bob was cited as late as 1958 at the infamous Sychovka psychiatric prison. While Carolyn plowed through archives, Jane debriefed the head doctor.
I discovered that all these years I had been kept in darkness about what really happened.
But the darkness only grew. Key prison files from the 50s were missing. None of the staff remembered Reynolds. Photos then, and as he'd looked today, were shown to the older inmates, some clinically insane. Still, Carolyn felt no fear.
I just want to go out there and look at those men. And I can't tell you why I have the desire to do that. You know, she came out and she turned around and went back. So, I don't know what she was feeling, but I could feel for her.
But no trace of the man who had seen her father.
This is Radio Moscow World Service.
Back in Moscow, appeals on national radio and ads in newspapers. Bob hadn't surfaced, but something else had. Answering one ad, Fyodor Shinkarenko, a retired Soviet Air Force general, invited Jane and Carolyn to visit him in Riga, Latvia. There, he told him that the time for secrets was over. He'd given the order to attack Reynolds' plane, which had violated Soviet airspace.
They fired, and the plane, heading toward the sea, immediately caught fire, burned up, and fell quickly toward the earth.
Oh, God. He believed Reynolds didn't survive the crash, but the plane's technology had. And Joseph Stalin himself kept all related documents locked up somewhere. But how much did the general really know? And what about Yeltsin's own admission that up to 12 American Cold War prisoners had survived? Or was Bob Reynolds really buried in the Baltic Sea? For Jane Reynolds, the search had only begun. Jim Maceda, NBC News, Moscow.
That's Nightly News for Friday. I'm Tom Brokaw. Garrett Utley will be here tomorrow night. I'll see you again on Monday.
Good evening, I'm Bonnie Schrock. Coming up next on the 6 o'clock news beat, authorities try to determine if the remains found yesterday are those of a missing man. Quarter horse owners protest a decision to virtually eliminate quarter horse racing in Kentucky. And workers fire up the barbecue pits in preparation for the St. John's picnic.
I'm meteorologist Cal Sisto. Looks like great weather for that picnic and everything you have planned this weekend. In Weather School tonight, we're going into outer space, and of course, we'll bring you up to date on the hurricane in the Pacific.
I'm Larry McIntosh in sports. Pookie Jones talks about the UK-Florida game. Don McCleary feels good about his Pacers this weekend. And one of the best high school football teams in the nation comes to Paducah.
Stay with us. Details are next on the 6 o'clock news feed.
We've got the winds of change.
Now, Heartland News at 6.
Good evening. The city of Cape Girardeau is facing a $2 million lawsuit.
Sued by one of its finest. Police officer Freddie Ford says he was discriminated against because he was black. In charges, police officer Howard Boyd said that Ford and other black officers on the force were, quote, bad apples. Reports.
I think if I had not been a black man, that this would not have happened to me.
Freddie Ford is charging racism in a $2 million lawsuit against the city of Cape Girardeau. Ford says he lost his detective position after being wrongly accused of sexual molestation. He says he passed his first lie detector test, but was suspended without pay anyway.
They done absolutely nothing to prove my innocence. Everything they done was to prove me guilty.
Ford was found not guilty in a jury trial earlier this year. He says Police Chief Howard Boyd pushed the case because he wanted Ford off the force. The prosecuting attorney disagrees.
I feel the case was thoroughly investigated and it boiled down to the word of the victim against the word of Freddie Ford. I don't see anything more the police could have done in investigating it.
The lawsuit names the city, the police department, Chief Boyd, the mayor, the city manager, and 6 city councilmen as defendants.
Chief Boyd declined to comment specifically on the lawsuit, but he did say that Ford's detective position had to be filled while he was gone, and that replacement is still here. Ford says suing is his last hope.
My reputation has been damaged. My family's reputation has been damaged. We're out of over $20,000 in fees and attorney fees. I was transferred from the detective division and put back on the streets to rotate.
Officer Ford says Chief Boyd embarrassed him by referring to him and another black officer on the force as bad apples. Ford is hoping to send the police department a $2 million message. Pretty strong message, Marianne.
Evidently, Gwen, there are a number of police investigations internally going on at this time. Where do they stand?
Well, Officer Lewis Jordan is being investigated by the prosecuting attorney for possible criminal charges of police brutality. And the other officer, Eddie James, is still being internally investigated. We still don't know what the charges might be, but he's still suspended with pay at this time.
You will keep us up to date on both of those steps.
That's right.
Thank you, Gwen. Mike?
Cameras are coming to Missouri courtrooms. The state Supreme Court today announced that beginning next month, television cameras will be allowed in selected courtrooms on a 2-year experimental basis. Cameras and recorders will be permitted in the
Down on a runway in Marseille, France, when French commandos picked their moment and moved in, putting an end to a 3-day-long hijacking. 170 passengers and crew were freed. It started on Saturday when the Air France flight from Algiers to Paris was commandeered. After 40 hours in Algiers, it was on to France where it all ended. Our report tonight from NBC's Richard Roth.
French patience ran out 14 hours after the Airbus landed at Marseille when commandos were ordered to storm the jet. 3 hostages had been killed before the plane left Algeria. But 170 passengers and crew were still on board in France as the anti-terror troops forced open doors and hurled stun grenades, filling the cabin with noise, light, and smoke in a high-risk gamble to save the remaining hostages' lives. It worked. 1 crew member was hurt when he jumped to escape the chaos, but most on board slid to safety, and French authorities said just 25 people were injured. 9 police, 3 crew members, and 13 passengers suffering shock, bruises, and minor cuts. Officials said all 4 hijackers were killed. French Prime Minister Edouard Balladur called the raid an example of courage and efficiency. He might have added it was also an example of good fortune. The images of rescue missions gone wrong are indelible. The 1985 Egypt Air hijacking to Malta, where 59 people died in a commando raid. The storming of a Pan Am jet a year later in Pakistan, when 22 were killed. But when hostages are being killed, counterforce can become inevitable.
At that point, it's just a question of timing. And in this case, clearly these people were exhausted, and it was a good time to grab them.
Just what the Algerian hijackers wanted isn't known. Authorities said they were members of the armed Islamic group, considered the most radical and most anti-foreign element of Algeria's fundamentalists.
Their campaign for an Islamic state in Algeria began targeting foreigners just over a year ago. Since 1992, when the army stepped in to prevent the election of an Islamic government in Algeria, 11,000 people have died in factional violence. Tonight, the passengers in Marseille said they were saved by following directions from the French commandos. We were told to get down and crawl toward the exit, said one man, and that's just what they did. Richard Roth, NBC News, London.
There was real hope today that American airman Bobby Hall, held captive in North Korea for 10 days now, would be coming home soon. But conflicting signals from the North tonight have left Hall's release in doubt. NBC's Jim Miklashevsky at the White House tonight.
When President Clinton slipped out for a round of golf today, there were signs North Korea may be getting ready to release Warrant Officer Bobby Hall. At the UN, the North Koreans asked the U.S. to send a representative to Pyongyang to discuss Hall's repatriation. And this evening, Deputy Assistant Secretary of State Thomas Hubbard is on his way and expected to begin talks on Wednesday. But tonight, there's a more ominous message from the North. In a broadcast from North Korea, the government called the U.S. helicopter flight into the North a deliberate act of espionage and said Washington must admit the offense before it's too late. Tonight, White House officials repeated the U.S. position that the helicopter strayed into North Korean territory by accident. Government sources believe the mixed signals are part of an ongoing power struggle in the North. The military appears to be taking control. Designated leader Kim Jong-il is reportedly in poor health and needs a kidney transplant. Meanwhile, NBC News has learned that if Warrant Officer Hall is not released soon, the Clinton administration may decide to cut off a shipment of crude oil to North Korea set for January 21st. It's part of the nuclear deal reached earlier.
I think we have to be very firm in our insistence that this is an important matter to us, that it must be resolved before other matters can go forward.
Others warn the nuclear deal should be a separate issue.
We will have to find out more about the government of North Korea, who is in charge, who we can deal with over a 5 to 10 year period of time.
Angry Clinton officials call North Korea's latest charges obnoxious, but still hold out hope that Wednesday's talks will lead to Airman Bobby Hall's release, and soon. Jim Miklashevsky, NBC News, the White House.
When Nightly News continues, it's beginning to look a lot like it wasn't quite the season retailers were expecting. Also, young and in trouble in Florida. What's being done to fix a big problem there? And later on, the small war that has spread. There's trouble at the top now in Russia.
Get set to win big real fast because
I've got to find another American family millionaire by next month.
Another $10 million winner?
Yes. In just weeks, I'll award another $10 million prize. Don't miss out. You may have the $10 million winning number right now in this sweepstakes, the only one with my picture.
The American Family Sweepstakes.
Right. Enter fast, and you can be a millionaire 10 times over.
Next month.
I can't fall asleep.
I can't stay asleep. Try new formula Maximum Strength Nitol to fall asleep fast and get a full night's sleep. New formula Maximum Strength Nitol.
Nitol will help you get your Z's.
I love working in the theater, and despite the arthritis that runs in my family, I plan to keep right on working. The Arthritis Foundation is working too, to find a cure. But until they do, they've helped to create new Arthritis Foundation pain relievers. For pain relief we can count on, from nighttime discomfort to the pain of inflammation. And part of our purchase price goes to research, so we're helping others as we help ourselves. New Arthritis Foundation pain relievers, for pain relief you can count on.
Attention heartburn sufferers.
If antacids work, why do I keep getting heartburn?
You know, frequent heartburn may be a sign of a more serious medical problem. Your doctor has treatment plans that can help.
Frequent heartburn. Isn't it time you talk to your doctor?
With Christmas now past, retailers are counting up their holiday take, and many are finding less than they'd hoped for. The reason? Tight-fisted shoppers forcing retailers to slash prices before Christmas Day. And as NBC's chief economics correspondent Irving R. Levine tells us, it didn't stop there.
Price cutting this day after Christmas was even deeper than usual. Retailers were trying to salvage something from generally disappointing holiday business. There was the usual rush of returns.
I was just returning a present I bought for my mother.
Returns are not entirely bad news for stores.
You're getting the customer back in the store one way or the other, which is always another opportunity for sales. You get a lot of people coming out with their holiday money in hand.
Things for the home were among the few items that sold really well this season. The spurt in home buying earlier this year created customers for appliances and furnishings. There was also brisk buying of computers and electronic items such as TVs and VCRs. At one Washington store, a boom in gifts satirizing political figures like Ross Perot, Ollie North, and the government itself. But even toy stores sold less than they expected. Unseasonably warm weather in many places was blamed for a slump in purchases of winter clothing, ordinarily a big holiday item. Many merchants counting on a banner year had overstocked. That will mean even greater markdowns in coming weeks as stores try to make space for spring merchandise, even in discount stores.
We've also got a lot of merchandise left over that we're going to sell at a bargain price.
Some bargain hunters were already planning for next year, stocking up today on marked-down Christmas wrapping. The weaker-than-expected holiday business and drastic price cutting add up to lower profits. That means retailers will be ordering fewer new goods, which could mean fewer new jobs in the months ahead, not only in stores, but also in factories that make things for stores. Irving R. Levine, NBC News, Washington.
Now to the O.J. Simpson case. Court is recessed for the holidays, but that hasn't slowed the news surrounding the proceedings. Today's development, complaints that Simpson is receiving preferential treatment at the L.A. County Jail. More now from NBC's Kelly O'Donnell.
The wait and the lines were long today outside the men's central jail.
It's unpleasant being here. It is. It's very depressing.
But unlike the families of the other 6,000 inmates, O.J. Simpson's mother is escorted right in. His family and friends bypass the lines, and that's part of what is renewing charges of special treatment.
Equal treatment. That's what I want.
While no visits were permitted on Christmas Day to allow some jail staff to be at home, Simpson's lawyers were there because
I hope that in 1995 that justice will be done.
Families of other inmates can wait up to 3 hours for a 15-minute visit.
I feel that money talks, and that's the bottom line to it. That's the way our system works.
Shouldn't be any favoritism shown because he's a celebrity.
The LA Times reports that Simpson gets other extras, like showering more often, sleeping later, and more time outside his cell than other inmates. Most of the family and friends who come to see O.J. Simpson here are considered material witnesses. The defense has put together a list of 52 people who might be called to testify about Simpson's character, so they're allowed longer, more frequent visits. Defense lawyers negotiated those comforts but deny special treatment. Kelly O'Donnell, NBC News, Los Angeles.
When Nightly News continues, violent teenage criminals, what one state is doing about them.
Next month, in a special live broadcast on Sunday, January 29th, you're invited to witness something few people see firsthand.
You've won $10 million from Publishers Clearinghouse.
Be a part of something magical as it happens. For the first time ever, watch who wins $10 million from Publishers Clearinghouse. Live on TV as it's happening Sunday, January 29th. Better yet, enter now, and the winner could be you.
Restored people's faith in the quality of American luxury cars, but it has a way of rejuvenating the soul as well.
Ricola,
Natural Herb Cough Drops, a pleasant-tasting blend of organically grown herbs and other natural ingredients from Switzerland.
With Fixodent, I can stay active and as confident as I need to, all day.
Even in the hottest liquids, when other adhesives stop holding, Fixodent holds stronger and longer.
That's why I Fixodent and forget it.
America Close Up now, and tonight, one solution to teenage violence. We recently reported about the trouble in Tampa, Florida. NBC's Bob Dotson reports on an attempt to fix it.
Images hard to understand, hard to forget. Children as young as 12 charged with armed robbery, attempted murder, and carjacking. Every 5 minutes in this country, another child is arrested for a violent crime. Police in Tampa say 11 kids, none old enough for a high school yearbook picture, went on a spree and racked up 142 crimes. What made them do it?
A lot of my kids come in and say all the time, you know, Judge Johnson, I don't think I'm going to live to be 25. So I'm going to go for it now.
Rich or poor, regardless of color, the judge says that they all have one thing in common.
Too many of our children are raising themselves.
How do you feel about that? Making up their own rules with guns, often neglected even when arrested a half dozen times.
Get that from under me!
When I came aboard, we had roughly 1,000 kids on a waiting list waiting to go into programs. That waiting list now is down under 500.
But most are still sent home to wait. The threat of arrest has lost its sting.
This is different from the traditional gangster because they understood very clearly the consequences of committing crimes in public against children, women, or innocent bystanders.
What can we do to prevent such a crime spree? Florida is trying a bunch of tough new laws. First, schools are notified when students are arrested. That allows teachers to pinpoint troubled children early. Second, mentors are assigned to help juveniles when they first come before the judge. Third, if treatment programs don't work, Florida cancels them within 6 months.
Prevention is going to take time, but in the meantime, society, the community, has to be protected. Punishment must be swift, it must be certain.
Judges in Florida can now more easily transfer kids to adult court who keep committing crimes. Last year, Florida sent 5,000, twice as many as any other state. But it didn't stop the crime spree.
Most of the kids who get transferred to the adult system in this country get placed on probation.
Because of overcrowding. So, Florida is now creating an entirely new system where violent juvenile offenders must serve 18 months to 3 years.
How old are you? 16, sir.
It will be similar to this prison boot camp, but offer more than discipline.
Sounds good.
Teens will be linked with something they lack in their lives. Someone who acts like a stern but caring parent.
Why not reach out to that kid at an early age and be that surrogate parent or family and make a difference where you can?
While you can. Across the country, arrests for violent teen crimes are now at an all-time high. So other states will be watching as Florida opens the first of these new facilities next month. For America Close Up, Bob Dotson, NBC News, Tampa.
When we come back, the new South Africa, how much closer to equality?
At the Olive Garden, come warm up with one of our hearty soups, made fresh every day, like our pasta fagioli. Absolutely delicious. And soup or salad is free with every entree only at the Olive Garden Italian restaurant. The Olive Garden presents the Mille Strati, layer after layer, more of the delicious, good, fresh foods you love. The lasagna you simply can't get anywhere else. The sensational new Mille Strati, only at the Olive Garden Italian restaurant.
Whoever said it's a cold, cruel world never had our insulation. Owens Corning. We make the difference.
Denture wearers, guess what? There's a new Polident made to clean dentures and fight denture odor in just 5 minutes. So new Minty Polident cleans stains and fights denture odor faster than ever. You'll love new Polident, honey. Works in just 5 minutes.
Some days I get these really pounding headaches. I used to take Tylenol, but it didn't always get rid of all the pain. So I've been using Advil for a while now. I found that on my tough headaches, 2 Advil work better than 2 extra-strength Tylenol tablets, better than extra-strength Tylenol caplets, better than Tylenol gel caps. And you know, nothing's been proven to last longer than Advil. For my tough headaches, Advil just works better. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
We've surprised lots of winners.
No way!
But January 29th, we're doing things differently.
Watch Publishers Clearinghouse surprise this year's $10 million winner live as it's happening Sunday, January 29th. Enter now and the winner could be you.
Whoever said now is the winter of our discontent never stood behind our windows. Owens Corning, we make the difference.
Shad was held hostage and survived. When his attacker got out of jail, one of the first things he did was find Shad again. You won't believe what happened next. Dateline Tuesday.
For weeks now, Russia has pounded the rebel republic of Chechnya. Boris Yeltsin, Russian president, has also taken a pounding because of questions about his leadership. Here's NBC's John Dancy.
Protests against Russia's brutal crackdown on Chechnya continued tonight in Moscow, amid signs that Boris Yeltsin wants to end the crisis that has shaken his presidency. Yeltsin took the first steps today to extricate himself from the war, essentially declaring victory and saying it's time to set up a new Russian administration in Grozny. This, despite the fact that Chechens have not surrendered nor asked for peace. Meanwhile, Yeltsin fired 3 top defense officials today, including famed General Boris Gromov, who led Russian troops out of Afghanistan in 1989. They will apparently be made scapegoats for the army's poor performance in Chechnya, further driving a wedge between the army and Yeltsin.
It's very bad for Russia because Russia is a very young democracy, and it might just not survive such a strain.
In Chechnya today, refugees took advantage of a lull in the fighting to flee. We found more than 200 living in railroad cars 50 miles from their homes in Grozny, crowded and bewildered. The bombs in Grozny fell on Chechens and Russians alike. Tanya Binkova is a Russian.
I've never seen anything in a war movie like what they're doing to us here.
The war has left between 60 and 100,000 people refugees. Boris Yeltsin will give a televised address on the war in Chechnya tomorrow, hoping to regain some of the ground he has lost with the Russian people. They remain deeply suspicious of the war he launched in their name. John Dancy, NBC News, Moscow.
Now to South Africa, celebrating the first Christmas season since last April's historic elections. It's supposed to be a time of hope now, but is the promise of democracy and freedom for all races being kept in the new South Africa? NBC's Keith Miller takes a look.
Carols in a Johannesburg park. For the first time, black and whites are celebrating Christmas as equals.
I think, that we have seen a miracle in this country.
But 7 months after South Africa's historic move to democracy, the black majority has failed to find economic equality. It is called the New South Africa, but 7 million blacks still live in old shacks. The government promised to build 1.5 million new homes over the next 5 years. Not a single house has been built.
People are expecting change in their lives, and it isn't coming as fast as they would like.
Many blacks in South Africa still can't find jobs. Unemployment is officially more than 50%. The government recently created 11,000 new civil service jobs. It received more than 1 million applications for the positions. High unemployment contributes to one of the highest crime rates in the world. Police expected violent crime to drop under black majority rule. Instead, it has remained the same. Foreign investment is needed to create jobs. Pepsi and 70 other American companies are doing business here, but many are not investing in new plants. President Nelson Mandela says his government has succeeded in keeping the country unified.
We have been able to get what would have been a bloody transformation into a smooth and peaceful transformation.
Goodwill between the races is now more evident than ever, but the experts say it will take decades, maybe longer, before South Africa enjoys full equality. Keith Miller, NBC News, Johannesburg.
Back with more right after this.
For centuries, a plan to link Great Britain with France remained just that. A plan. Until 1987. That's when the manpower and machine power of Europe joined forces with Caterpillar, the world leader in earth-moving equipment, which got an idea off the drawing board and put it where it belongs, under 23 miles of water.
Andy, you're a businessman. What's the fastest way you know to get rich?
Sweepstakes. I won $10 million like that.
You sure did. Watch your mail today for the only sweepstakes with our picture.
You can get rich fast, too.
Fibercon or Metamucil? Both give you the same predictable regularity, the same natural action of fiber. So what makes Fibercon different? With Fibercon, I get my fiber in 2 caplets. Fibercon, fiber regularity that's easier to take.
Does your scalp itch so bad you wish you could shampoo anytime? Here's a better way. It's Scalpicin, a clear liquid you can use anytime and don't wash away like shampoo. Scalpicin stays on, keeps working with medicine chosen by doctors as most effective for deep scalp itch. Scalpicin stops itching, helps prevent flaking with itch medicine dandruff shampoos don't have.
Scalpicin, stop that itch fast.
Scalpicin, specific medication for deep scalp itch.
You make me feel so young.
Promise Ultra, the first fat-free margarine, just 5 calories a serving.
You make me feel so young.
Fat-free Promise Ultra. Get heart smart.
Nicorette, I found out about it from my doctor.
Nicorette is nicotine gum. It's serious medicine, and only your doctor can prescribe it for you.
So why not talk with your healthcare professional and find out whether Nicorette is right for you?
This week on Today, how to improve your finances in the new year.
Also, actress Winona Ryder of Little Women and the music of Stevie Wonder. So join us this week.
And see what a difference today makes.
Finally tonight, as the new year approaches, a list out today of this past year's top 10 news stories as chosen by editors of the Associated Press. The O.J. Simpson story tops the list, followed by the November elections, baseball and hockey's labor troubles, Susan Smith, the confessed killer of her 2 sons, the Nancy Kerrigan-Tonya Harding saga, the crisis in Haiti, the failure of health care reform, the Southern California earthquake, the Rwanda tragedy, and finally, Palestinian self-rule. Still a few days left. That is Nightly News for this Monday, the day after Christmas 1994, and we leave you now with the sounds of the holiday and the names of all of those with NBC News Worldwide who make this broadcast possible throughout the year. I'm Brian Williams in New York. Good night for all of us at NBC News.